Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 93 of the Office Hours podcast. Last time when we were saying our goodbyes, we said, yeah, let's do it next week. And then, like, 3 weeks passed because, I forgot about it the one week. I was like, Friday, 4:20, my alarm is like, record the episode. I'm like, oh, I haven't even reached out to see if Mo's available. And then the week after, we went for a little concert, which was pretty nice. And then the week after, Mo was busy, and now finally, after all that,
Yeah,
we're back in the proverbial saddle. So, how's it going, Mo? How you been?
good, good. I mean, it's a lot of life in going on, so it's
Yeah,
a good thing. So,
nice.
it's nice to be here again to chat, to talk to you. And I have something interesting that came to mind while we were
Okay.
talking before we started hitting record. So, yeah, I don't even know if I want to go just directly into it like that. So, because I also want to check in with you, like, how are you? Like, how is
Oh man, it's
everything
kind of the
going?
same. It's Groundhog Day. It's like every day is basically very similar to every other day, but at least the kid is learning new tricks. She's like starting to do new things, so that's kind of interesting. She's growing like crazy, you know.
I should
Uh,
call daddy yet.
huh?
I should call daddy yet.
No, man, she doesn't speak yet, but she started laughing recently, which was really adorable.
Who made the joke? You?
No, not about jokes. I mean, babies laugh about like I don't even know what she
Fair
was
enough. Yeah,
laughing about,
yeah,
but she was laughing, and that was kind of nice. Because normally,
yeah,
like she makes a lot of noises, but like laughing is a very deliberate kind of noise, right? So that when that happened, it was really adorable.
yeah. That's so cute. Yeah, this is what we live for anyway. So it's really
Yeah,
nice.
I tend to agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so I was thinking um to ask you, what do you enjoy the most about like software engineering?
Fair enough. I guess uh, in continuation of what we were just talking about, which is like my loss of enjoyment of software engineering. I guess I can tell you what I used to enjoy about software
Hmm.
engineering. I think like one of the biggest things for the longest time was this sort of sense of, well, first of all, it's how do I put it? It's like a rigorous engineering approach on one hand, but it is like an artistic kind of free flowy approach on the other hand. And especially with web, at least back in the day, you kind of had that sense of immediacy. Like, you make your change and you immediately kind of see the result. Because I remember like with things like the non-web development where you have to like compile for a bunch of minutes before you can even get to see what you just done. It felt like very snappy, It's I guess like you could compare it to a sense of like if you're like a painter or a sculptor and you make the changes and you see them right away and you can see how your vision is getting shaped like right in front of you, and it has a lot of discipline to it and it has a lot of knowledge and understanding, and like like people can do the same tasks with different approaches. You can always like see what other people are doing and you're learning something cool. So that was kind of very rewarding, um for like a really long time. And I also kind of liked getting into how things work and why they work. And then one of the side effects of that was that one of the best ways of understanding how something works is to try to explain how something works to somebody who still doesn't understand it yet. From which that whole branch of like teaching people how it all happens, that was like a big contributor to this as well. Um, but I don't know. We've been talking about how I'm no longer enjoying web because it's just getting slower, shittier, and nothing fun is happening. It's just like endless React and rehashing of basically the same stuff that's going on. And the fact that now you sit and wait for your compilers and bundlers, and like it's just like, man, it it turned into another one of those kind of sloggy things where it's just it's just not fun anymore.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I can understand it, but the reason why I asked like, well, what you enjoy the most is because I feel like there are different parts of web. Like there is like the front end part, like the ones that like you were just describing, where you change
Hmm.
something and you see it immediately. Like this is the interface. And if you work on the back end, um, maybe you won't see it immediately. Like you probably might have to like test with like, certain tools to be able to see how what you just did. And also we have the other part which probably manages like, the infrastructure and like,
Hmm.
this other part. So like I feel like there are different parts of it. So I wonder, is it just the way like the library that you use right now? Is this what is the most let's say JavaScript? Because I was
Hmm.
also just telling you like I feel like JavaScript is always like a new framework every time. Is it JavaScript that you find to be adding more stuff, or like the framework that you use right now that
It's
seems to
just
be the
the whole ecosystem. And I think I brought up that point a bunch of times where it's like, you know, before you have your website, you have your server, it has Apache running, it has mod PHP running, and then you have a folder with all of the files, and there's a PHP file, and you modify it in your editor, and you hit save, and then you refresh the page, and it's there. And that was it, right? It's like very, very immediate. You can like literally copy paste the files over from your computer to the server to like deploy them. But now it's like, oh no, there's a CI pipeline, there's a bundler, there's a packer, there's like, you need to build a Docker image, and then you have to deploy this Docker image to some Kubernetes control plane, and then blah 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 blah, and then in
blah
this
blah
thing
blah.
and that thing and that. It's like, okay, half an hour has passed before I get to truly see what's going on. So uh, all of that back pressure, like all of that, it's like this giant tar pit between you and what you want to see. And like every time you do anything, you kind of have to like wait and slog through. It kills all momentum, and it really takes out a lot of enjoyment out of the process. And now, you can't just build an application. Oh, it has to be a microservice. So like locally you have to run like 25 different things. Like it's impossible to debug because it just like jumps between 5 different servers. And like nobody really knows why you need those 5 different servers, but microservices are kind of cool and in vogue. So everybody's doing microservices. And like there's just a lot of these kind of stylistic choices that people make about how they build their software that is just so tiresome, you know? Like uh and anytime you try to push back on it, everyone's like, "Oh, this guy doesn't believe in microservices. Like, what's wrong with this guy?" Like, oh, you know. So, um I'm working on a little side project, and one of my things that I wanted to do was to kind of just get rid of all of that crap.
Yeah.
Just like not try to, like, okay, like if you need a website with like 5 pages with some text, like you don't need a headless CMS and a Next.js and a Kubernetes cluster. You can just literally have a couple of pages and like be done with it, right? But literally, you ask anyone who's been doing it for under 10 years, like Next.js or something of its ilk will be like the first thing they'd be like whipping out. Like I can guarantee you, like go around, ask like some intermediate developers, like if you want to build a website, like what would you start with? Like I bet like Next.js is gonna be, well, I don't know. You're working at an Angular shop,
I
so maybe
mean,
it's different.
Next.js is not in my own show. I mean, see, I can understand it very
But I guess
well.
what I'm saying is they'll probably whip out some big framework, one kind or another, be it
Mhm.
Angular or Next or just React or something. It's never gonna be like oh, can we just do something simple? It's never, it never defaults to something simple these days. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I'm thinking about it, right? And I'm thinking about the simple that as I can understand, like you're trying to suggest, is like bare HTML and bare JavaScript. Like just keep it bare. No framework, just bare
Nah,
HTML.
I mean, it has to be, it has to be reasonable. Like for instance, like if I have a site with a bunch of marketing pages on it, like why wasn't there like recently some sort of study where it's like most SPAs, like most requests, people like barely navigate to any other pages, or they navigate to like one or maybe two other pages. So like all of this work you made to like not have them load some static content is just like all wasted because it's like nobody's using that crap anyway, or something or another, you know.
Hmm.
So I would understand something like, okay, I can have some static pages, I can have some server rendered pages, because like again, all these frameworks is like, yeah, let's render a bunch of stuff on a server, let's have server side actions. The other thing that really kills my enjoyment about it is that React just keeps shitting on like 20 years of progress in terms of splitting things into logical pieces. They just like jumble everything. It's like I see now with Prisma, it's like, oh yeah, we have a non-click and it's server-side handled and it has like a select star from some table directly in it. And I'm like, oh fuck, kill me now. Like any kind of ideas about what constitutes good separation of concerns and just is just entirely out the window because it's like, you know, it's almost like kind of going back to ASP.NET 2.0 days where you just like run at equals server, you know, like that's how they used to be doing it. But even then, most people weren't really writing SQL directly in their templates. That was more of like a PHP thing. Like we always used the entity framework, which decoupled the database layer from the presentation layer.
Oh, I
Right?
get it
And
now.
some
Okay.
people used what was it, SQL data source, which let you put in queries directly into your template because of how ASP.NET works, but there were still division. Now it's just like blah, you know, everything, and it's like with React server side rendering on top and like fancy unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerabilities because, you know, we haven't learned anything in like last 20 years. So I don't know. It just got all of it gotten very tiresome. Um so whenever some new magical framework comes out that promises to fix everything, it's like, yeah, I know what's going to end up in 6 months, you know.
Listen, I think I want to recommend Angular to you. You know, like I'm literally recommending it like a lot. If separation of concern is something that actually means a lot to you, I recommend it because I feel like this is one thing Angular does very well. My experience with React is similar. Like it's one thing I don't like about React is the fact that everything can just be in one place. It's just like a big
It's
bowl
the
of
thing
like
is like
everything.
early React, it wasn't the case. Like early React was literally like it you have a function which takes some state and produces some DOM. Like takes the state and produces DOM, and then when state changes, the DOM changes. It was really simple. But it's like, I don't know. It almost feels like that freaking character from Lord of the Rings, you know, the one that like whispers in the king's ear, and like Vercel is the evil guy who's like whispering in React core team's ear about, we have to do server side rendering and server side actions, blah, you know, you have to make it more complicated because Vercel is being paid by all the people running on their
Hmm.
platform deploying their
Hmm.
shitty Next.js
Hmm.
applications. So their entire direction, like in the last however many years, has been toward like making it more complicated, harder to reason about, and like again destroying all of the principles of engineering that brought us to this day, you know. So like even if I know that I can use more bare bones version of it, the overall trend is telling me that it's like it's not going to get any better. It just goes into this bizarre direction where it's just crappier and crappier. And every time it's like, oh, but we need to improve performance. We need to improve performance. You know what renders instantly? It's the server-side freaking rendered HTML page. Like the browser sucks it in and just renders it immediately. In fact, it even renders it as it's being downloaded over the wire because it doesn't have to wait for your 14 megabyte JavaScript bundle just to like render some buttons on a page. It's ridiculous.
Well,
You know the site called this is a motherfucking website.com?
wait, what? This no. This is a
So there's a
website
site
like
called
this?
this is a I think it's I don't remember the exact URL. I think it may be like motherfucking website.com and it's literally just a single HTML page, black and white, no CSS, and it says this is a motherfucking website. There's some information on it. You can read it. It works on mobile, it works on your desktop, you can read it perfectly fine, it loads instantly, there's no scripts, there's no tracking, there you have it, you know. Obviously it's like a satire of some sort, but there's a huge point to it. It's like it works literally everywhere without requiring literally any intermediate steps. It's like 100% reliable, never breaks, and conveys the information that it needs to convey. You know,
Okay.
somebody recently was crapping on a site for Berkshire Hathaway, which is like the Warren Buffett's investment firm. And they're like, oh, this website looks like it's been made in Microsoft front page in 2003. And it's like, yeah, and it loads fine, it renders fine, it has all the information that you need on it. It might not look the best, but like it works. There's literally no problem with it. It freaking works. It doesn't require a freaking 30 node Kubernetes cluster and like GitHub CI job that runs for 35 minutes just to put it online, I bet.
Okay, so this is how I see it, right?
And cut.
You back? Okay.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is I think, say let's use Angular as an example. A while ago I was doing a project about OWASP thing. Like it was like a rich. I was trying to like present and teach about security stuff, and I learned a lot about how Angular as a framework actually out of the box helps to keep certain things secure. And this security, you would not have it if you have bare HTML with the bare HTML and bare JavaScript. Like,
well, I mean, if you're talking about things like CSRF protection, like Ruby on Rails had it like 15 years ago. So
yeah, but that's Ruby on Rails. And Ruby on Rails is a framework
yes,
for Ruby. So
but it's a server-side framework. It's not a client-side framework. With Ruby
yeah,
on Rails,
but
you can literally go in a file, change your template, hit refresh, and it immediately appears.
not really.
Yeah, yeah,
But
really. Yeah, really. That's how it works.
but you know, we'll put this aside. The point I was trying to make is like I can see the purpose of these frameworks, like what they promise to do. And also like in recent times, like I also understood more about like why we have like dev environments like Azure and stuff like this, like Kubernetes and stuff like this. And I think it helps with different things like maybe like better load times or like availability and stuff like this. Because if you have one server and it goes down in one place, you can have like some kind of like backup availability in general.
But I mean,
And
that's true for any technology, right? Like that
but
part is kind of unrelated. In fact, if you have a whole bunch of static HTML pages and you publish them to some CDN, you don't even have a server.
okay, this is where I'm going to.
Unless
So now,
Cloudflare has another oopsie.
so I'm thinking I see the point, but I'm not able to understand what benefit we would have and if we are still going to be able to maintain the standard of web that we have today, because web in 10 years ago is not the same today. We
Yeah, I
have
think it's
larger
even better
files.
10 years ago than today.
Arguably, maybe from your perspective, but I think, like in my own view, I feel like every year there's a newer solutions for some problems. For example, today I was watching the first episode of Silicon Valley.
Mm.
And have you seen the show?
I've seen first season a bunch of years back. I
Yeah,
remember it was pretty funny.
yeah, and then one of I mean, sorry, spoiler alert, but one of the things they were talking about was like the app that was built was to help share large files,
Yes.
so
Their whole thing was about like some fancy compression algorithm.
yeah, compression algorithm. And this is also something that contributed to web because web is not just a website. Right now we have everything literally living on the web. So you can
True.
have
I
different
mean,
type
in
of
fact, we're
systems.
recording this episode through a web app.
So it's really big. And depending on what your needs are, this determines like how you serve this service. So I'm trying to really like understand if what you're suggesting is like it's a thing that is for web in general, or this is just a thing for like websites or like certain type of website, or maybe you're just being specific, or you just like it's a general thing, or what
It kind of feels
exactly
like
would we
it kind of
benefit?
feels like a general thing, you know. Um, it's just I guess I can understand from some point, like I can understand from some aspects that are not like on a dev side, like maybe on ops side, it's just more predictable to have Kubernetes or something like that, you know, where you can just shuffle in servers in and out. But at the same time, it's like the reason the Kubernetes makes sense is like if you have a server farm on AWS. But at the same time, if you have all that shit running on AWS, you're already overpaying by like some ridiculous amount, right? So again, it's like the Kubernetes solves problem of AWS, but the AWS has created that problem. Like before AWS, that problem didn't exist. We had a different problem. We had a problem of like, oh, we have to invest a bunch of capex ahead of time in order to, you know, get ourselves into a data center and like buy a bunch of servers. And then AWS came in and was like, oh, we can just abstract it all from you entirely. You don't have to think about servers. You don't have to think about disk drives. You don't have to think about backups. You don't have to think about any of it. And that was true, but at what cost? Because it was massively more expensive. And the whole thing was that, okay, you start for free, you kind of put everything there, and then when the serious loads start hitting your servers, then the price is like in tens of thousands of dollars, right? Whereas if you had your servers, you paid that $10,000 for the servers once, and then you just like you can
Yeah,
run
but
them
what about
100%
maintenance?
CPU utilization 24/7 and like cry all the way, or sorry, laugh all the way to the bank because you're not paying some ridiculous bills. So it's
What
like
about
it.
maintenance?
Well,
Maintenance.
yeah, but again,
Six,
like,
seven? Six,
oh,
seven.
okay, I'm shutting this down. That's it. That's it.
Sorry.
I'll get
Sorry.
AI to Photoshop that broccoli head haircut on your head for this. Oh my god. Such cancer, such cancer. Okay. Okay, that derailed my train of thought entirely. Where were we?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I was saying that like we had like we keep trading sets of problems for sets of new problems that end up costing more and making everything slower and more shittier. And we just keep doing that, you know? So I don't like the direction in which the whole thing is going. And like the whole promise of AWS was like, oh, if you're a startup, you can start literally with $0, which is a really good value proposition. Like I can't begrudge them that. It's like so many startups could try and fail without spending like a lot of money on startup costs. So that probably had a boom of all sorts of startups. So that's kind of good. But then later on, everyone's like, oh, as soon as we migrated off of AWS or some other cloud solution, we like literally started saving tens of thousands of dollars. So like the amount of waste and like things became faster, or somebody's like saying, you know, we had the fancy microservices thing, and then we rewrote it in a monolith, and now everything's faster, and it's like takes fewer servers to run, fewer things to deploy, easier to maintain. It's like, in some ways, people kind of going back to the roots
scalability
and
too. Yeah.
realizing, well, I've yet to see. It's kind of the same thing. Like when Facebook released GraphQL, everyone's like, "Oh my god, GraphQL is the tits! It's so cool!" And it's like, yeah, but you're not Facebook. Like, it is cool. It has all these things, but like, you're not Facebook. You're not gonna leverage it to its fullest potential. And the amount of complexity that it brings with it is considerable. You have to account for it. And then Google released Kubernetes, and it's like, oh my god, Kubernetes, so freaking awesome. We can now run Docker containers, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but you're not Google. You're not running hundreds of thousands of servers and payloads on them. Like, and people start adopting these technologies because they see big players adopt them. It's like, oh, microservices. It's like, yeah, microservices, but you're not Netflix. Like, you're not doing all these things that warrant this type of scalability. So you're using the technology and it's only fulfilling like 10% of its role. And the rest is just like the wow factor. But, you know, on every pill bottle has a list of side effects, and you didn't bother to read the list of side effects when you adopt GraphQL or Kubernetes or, you know, microservices or what have you. And then down the line, because again, you know, side effects may include, it doesn't mean like as soon as you pop the pill, it's going to immediately hit you and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this, right? It's like, oh no, 6 years down the line, it's like you start shitting your pants every 3 days. And it's like, but by that time, it's too late. You're like already firmly invested into it, right? So people adopt all these fancy technologies from monstrous sized enterprises and think that they can make it work reasonably within their own ecosystem. And then it brings all of these troubles with it. And then we try to bring solutions for all of those problems, not realizing that the problems we talked about, it's like we create problems for ourselves and then we come up with solutions. And then somebody says, oh, okay, now that we have this whole concept of how to solve this problem, we're going to like turn it into SaaS. And like the whole thing just keeps on iterating and iterating, you know?
Yeah, I guess that makes Google like technology influencers, maybe.
Well, of course they are. I mean, they're like, I don't think, they're not the biggest. I think Microsoft is the biggest company right now by capitalization, I think.
It depends. I think it depends on how you see. Anyway, yeah, probably.
Well, by market cap, I think it's like Microsoft is number one right now. Anyway, immaterial.
Yeah. Well, I was just like, in terms of like technology itself, not like in terms of the economy side of it, but I think if you say anything is from Google, like people just believe it's good. But
and then Google kills
it. The only thing I think I completely understand this part that you say, like you're not this size and maybe you don't really need it. And I mean, I don't know how to defend it really, because you're right. Like maybe they don't really have this amount of load to even manage in the first place. Like
I think there's an interesting thing that's happening currently because of AI. You heard about Micron basically said that like we're not making memory for retail customers anymore. It's all for like AI enterprise. And then Samsung came out and said we're not selling SSD chips to retail customers anymore. It's all going for like AI enterprise. So price of RAM and price of SSDs are like I don't know about SSDs just yet because, you know, but price of RAM, like if you want to build a gaming PC, like RAM is very expensive these days. And it's only like a matter of time before, because for years, like very, very early on in computing, it's like, as Bill Gates said, you know, 640K ought to be enough for everybody, right? 640 kilobytes of RAM ought to be enough for everybody. Like back in like DOS 1.0 days, everybody keeps like kind of crapping on him about it, but like people worked in extremely constrained environments, and then like manufacturing, the technology process improved so much that stuff became dirt cheap. Like SSDs are dirt cheap, RAM used to be dirt cheap, and everyone's like, I can have a node modules folder that is like 1.5 gigabytes, and I can package it into a Docker container and distribute it across 30 Kubernetes nodes. Well, no big deal. Well, now that the costs of RAM have tripled and the cost of SSDs, I don't know where they are right now, but they're going up as well. It's like, are you sure you'll be able to afford to deploy your freaking 1.5 gigabyte node modules folder on 30 servers in a couple of years if it keeps going the same way it's going? Maybe you kind of have to return back to form and start like minding your constraints, because now for longest time, people are basically writing it like RAM doesn't exist. It's just, you just have infinity RAM, and you just like literally, I installed Firefox on my parents' computer yesterday, and brand new installation of Firefox with like one tab open consumes 1 gig of fucking RAM. Like, just insane. And you know why? Because they put like 15 different AIs into the browser that nobody asked them to do, and now they're like, yeah, we're gonna put even more. And like, yeah, enjoy having something that used to be like fast browser that did not like destroy your system in the process. Like, I mean, okay, just for shits and giggles, Task Manager, Firefox, 5.5 gigabytes of RAM. Well, that's not too bad. I've seen it hit 10.
10.
Yeah, and it's just like web pages open that run those fancy JavaScript React applications where like a simple page with like 3 buttons and a thing occupies like 600 megs of RAM just for the fuck of it. I don't even know.
You know, this I understand even more, because now I think about it. I remember in uni when we talk about data structures and algorithms and stuff like this, I think it was mostly like to be able to manage data and stuff. Anyway, there were purpose for it. But in software engineering nowadays, like nobody really thinks much about this. Like, you don't even think much about like, well, this code is going. For example, I think there was one time I did a code review sometime, and I noticed how many getters that was being used. Like, and you know how you have like functions in a template that just executes like constantly. I mean, there are certain times that you might need this. I'm not against it, but I just feel like these are like small things that contribute to the performance of the website, and in turn lead to this high usage of RAMs that we are talking about. Because when you start to have computations that you don't even need just going off just because you loaded the page, you know, like, now you need more memories for this.
You open a page and your fans start spinning, and you're like,
yeah.
Is there a crypto miner? It's like, no, it's just a junior developer put everything in one gigantic hook that like renders literally every time anything happens. It renders the entire website.
Yeah.
Nobody,
so
like, you are right. The other thing I started saying, like, another half of my enjoyment of software was the fact that like I can teach it, but now I don't even know if there's a point, because nobody seems to give a shit. Everybody's like vibe coding the entire applications without any understanding how any of it's supposed to work, and it's just like, it's fine. Trust me, bro. You know, like nobody cares. So it's like, okay, well, you know, there's that, you know,
I think
saying about throwing pearls before swine.
I think the art of teaching it is not lost. I don't think
it's not lost. It's just like, I think that like there's still a couple of branches of software engineering where people kind of have to mind their bytes and mind their CPU cycles. One is like embedded, like if you're building microcontrollers, because you are still in very constrained environments. Even though the newer microcontrollers are like beasts compared to microcontrollers of yore, like some ESP S3 with like 520 megs of freaking cache. It's like people 20 years ago would die for something. They're like, sell their grandma to the devil to get that kind of resources on a chip like this size, right? So again, it improved massively. And I think now they also have the opportunity to just throw the caution to the wind and be like, oh fuck it, we just have so many resources that we don't even care anymore. But I think in like low cost devices, they still do, because you get a chip with 64K of mask ROM where you have to fit your entire program, and you're running at like 80 megahertz or something. Like, good luck, right? You really need to know what you're doing and like understand your platform and how everything interacts and everything. So props to those guys. The other part that is kind of similar is game dev, because in game dev you have to squeeze everything you possibly can out of it, because you always want to have more frames per second on your screen. And if you have a budget of frames per second on your screen, so it's like you have to run at least at 60, right, these days. So if you have more, that means you can add more logic and more rendering things to your game to make it more cool and beautiful without blowing like your rendering budget. But these days, Unreal is like, it'll be fine. Just check this tick box to turn off Lumen, and check this tick box to turn off, what's the other thing that they have? Anyway, there's like one for rendering and one for like dynamic LODs or something like that. And it'll just magically make everything better. And then it just turns it into complete garbage. Like, everything looks like shit. Everything looks like, all games built on Unreal Engine, you can tell that they've been built on Unreal Engine because they all look like the same. They kind of look plasticky and crappy. And again, they're pushing everybody into this domain of, like, I mean, okay, like, video games were always driving GPUs because, NVIDIA releases a new GPU and the game maker's like, oh, we have this much budget to put all this extra crap into our rendering pipeline to make the game even more cool. So, like, they release it, and 6 months later, new games come out that, like, hammer fully, like, they load the whole thing until it's, like, starts smoking in your case, right? So they have to figure out a way to give them even more resources. And then AI, well, crypto comes out first, which they didn't really pay attention to because they couldn't really capitalize on it, I guess. But then AI came out, and now they're like, oh, if we sell to AI companies, that's like infinite money. So we're just going to focus all of our attention on those guys. But again, like a 5080 is such a beefy card, or like the new AMD, whatever their nomenclature is, I don't even know these days, compared to like 4 or 5 generations ago. Again, it creates this mindset of, I'm unconstrained in my resources, and you just have sloppy garbage on the way out because nobody really kind of takes time to contemplate what it is they're trying to do and how to best align it with their platform and stuff. Like, I'm watching this guy on YouTube, I think he's German, called Kaze Emanuauer, I think. I probably butchered it, but he is basically analyzed the crap out of Nintendo 64 rendering pipeline and like the hardware, the CPUs they use, and he's building his own version of like Mario 64 games, but without doing all the things that the original developers of Mario 64 did wrong in terms of like their architecture. So he's basically pushing like 60 frames a second on a Nintendo 64 in his game because he like leverages everything that this platform has to offer. And it's just like, But entirety of engineering is moving further and further away from that approach where you truly understand your system and you're building it to like, everything is just, first it was like frameworks where it's just like, okay, we'll make it generic. It'll run slower and poorer, but at least more people, it's more democratized at cost of like true performance, because before, you have to have all this specialized knowledge. So like, I get it, like we're moving in a direction where more and more people can build things because it's easier, but now it's basically everybody can build stuff and it's just infinitely shitty. So we like fully swung to the other side of the spectrum, if you know what I mean.
And even shittier with the vibe coding. But yeah, I see the point. But I mean, what do you think could be? Because like, when you're saying it, what I'm learning now is like, I mean, what I'm understanding from what you're saying is that I think what is missing is the core concepts of software engineering. You know, like there are all these things used to be accounted for, like when you actually like were like before. I mean, and I'm saying this not because like I've been working 20 years or 30 years ago, but I know from like, education and like also like some experiences of working like this. I know, but nowadays we don't have this anymore. Like now, I feel like software engineering got to a point where it became commercialized as a profession,
Yeah.
and it's not, you
I mean, it was
lose
it was always
quality as something.
commercialized.
No, no, commercialized in the sense that
It's become democratized.
I don't
Like,
know if that's the word I was looking for. Okay, let me explain
well,
what I
like
meant.
it just means like more and more people, like the barriers to entry have been lowered to a point where like literally anybody can do it. Because
That's what
like,
I was trying to say.
yeah, if you're building 20 years ago or 30 years ago, even better, like you need to learn like assembly for a specific CPU, and you have to get all this expensive tooling. Like
Mhm,
you like only a handful of chosen people essentially could do it. Now, like especially with vibe coding, like literally everybody can do it. And the direction to that was there since day one, because every subsequent iteration is like, oh, first you have machine code, you flip the switches on the front panel to put in machine codes one byte at a time. We're like literally flipping bits and saying, okay, push this
mhm,
bit into
mhm,
RAM, right? Then we have assembly where you like write some text, and that like then we have C, and so it's like layers of abstraction, and then we have all these other layers of abstraction frameworks, and now with like AI assisted vibe coding, you don't even need to know the language really if you want to put something out there. You just kind of vaguely hand wave your thing around, and AI creates it for you, right? And like some people are much better at it than others because they know how to leverage their AI to its best that it can provide. But the necessity, like even for me building stuff in JavaScript, like I don't care how CPU works. I don't care how cache lines on a CPU work. I don't really care about like alignment or any of this, or like making sure that like your I don't know, predictive instruction pipeline kind of gets the right data there at the right time, so you're like
mhm.
not sacrificing any performance. I don't have to think about any of that stuff, right? Compared to people that come before me who had to. And like people who come after me, they don't have to think about even more things that I would normally be thinking about, because they can afford not to. In a sense that they can create something that produces some kind of result for some people without knowing any of it. But is it gonna do it the cheapest way at best performance for everybody? No, it's not. It's not gonna, because they have not accounted for all of those other things, right? It might work some of the time, but it's likely not gonna work all of the time.
Yeah, but I, what do you suggest? Like, how do we if solve this problem now? Like,
Uh,
do you think people, do you think it's an educational situation, or do you think we are going to find a solution infrastructure wise, like another infrastructure to put on
well,
this?
so this entire time we've been piling abstractions on top of one another, because like AI is essentially another abstraction on top of it, right? It hides the underlying complexity. Like every layer attempts to hide the underlying complexity, right? Because like when you're literally sending bits down the wire, it doesn't really get any simpler than that. Not in terms of like simplicity or easiness, but in terms of like it's more atomic. Like you can't really subdivide it into more parts, right? Because like, but now with AI, it has like so many abstraction layers underneath it that all boil down effectively to your CPU instructions and the bit banging on the wire on the bus, right? So, and I'm not necessarily, I I can't in the right mind advocate for like going back to that. I I think like just the market, the only thing that will be able to reverse that trend is potentially the whole situation with RAM. like if right now you can like there was an article on Hacker News front page today. You know Jeff Geerling,
Mm-hmm.
the YouTuber guy who like dicks around with like Linux and Raspberry Pis and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Like Apple loaned him a series of new Apple Studio servers worth like 40 grand because they recently did this thing where you have like basically you can share RAM between physical machines on not even RAM, you can share VRAM. So you can share
Virtual RAM.
video RAM between physical servers, so you can
Mm-hmm.
load those humongous models. Like he has like 128 terabytes worth of RAM or something like that. You know, and shit, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, like it costs 40 grand because there's like two servers with like some ridiculous amount of RAM and two more servers with like half that. So altogether, it gets like some crazy amount of VRAM. But like, if instead of core costing 40 grand, that thing starts costing like I don't know, like 120 grand, you would be like, can I get away with not running like a 50
Mm.
billion parameter model on this thing? Or maybe, you know, I can start minding
Mm.
my RAM usage and like I have to actually start pushing the hardware to what it can do. Because like the Moore's law and advancements in high-tech manufacturing has basically been pushing away the limits from us all these years. It's like with every new year, you just throw more RAM into it, you throw more compute in it, you throw more disk space into it. Like anytime you would even remotely approach the limit of like how fat your server can get, they're like, new generation comes out, double everything. You have this much headroom again to dick around and not pay attention to what you're doing, right? But now maybe even if we're not stopping for it from like the Moore's law perspective, like they still coming up with things, but now there's economic pressures that may say, oh yeah, you can't afford to buy RAM at these prices anymore, so you'll have to do with less. And finally, people will start hitting that wall, and it's like, oh, oops, I don't have infinity RAM on my server. I actually have to start paying attention. So maybe that will happen. I don't know.
I was thinking the same. Maybe. I mean, if this kind of situation happens, then I guess it will force we would have to adapt. But one thing I also think of is just as like you said, like every year there's like a computing increase, like even
Mhm.
for mobile phones.
It has
Like
slowed
the
down quite considerably in the last like 5 years, maybe. Because back in the days, like every year, the performance would like double allegedly, or the not the performance would double, like the amount of transistors on a die would double. So the process, like, have you seen those AMD EPIC chips? Like a CPU is like like this big, you know. That they're packing like I don't know, like a billion transistors on it or something, or
yeah,
two or three.
but maybe maybe we will hit a limit at some point. Because I know that, and I was saying I was trying to get to a point where like I was saying that even this compute the excuse for the computational components
Mm-hmm.
being increased is because the functions of these devices are also increasing. So like we need more computational power to be able to load certain services from these devices. For example,
And what do we do with all that computational power? Oh, we render liquid glass. Like, yeah, that's a great use of all that capacity. It's
you know,
like, really?
yeah, this is one thing. One thing. But also like there are also like other services like for example navigation um maps or like it's just different things. Like there are also other things like
I dread the day when
location.
AI is gonna start planning my navigation.
Well, this can happen, like maybe you can
Uh,
start determining where you're going
Thankfully,
to.
I think there's no need because, well, I don't know.
It could
They
happen,
probably would have to start adding something like that for, like, the algorithms for graph traversal, which is mapping, basically, have been well understood. But I guess if you want to like react dynamically to like congestion or you know I think I probably told about it before, but there's like this short story from a driver from an author that I like about like a AI taxi cab It's basically like the AI is the company that operates the cab, and it was like a car sharing situation where multiple people can ride the car, and the AI realized that like if it picks up these two people together, they tend to tip more because they were like falling for each other. So it's like, oh yeah, AI is gonna route me by that restaurant that they're paying advertisement
Oh,
dollars to on the chance that I'll stop by and buy something. Like, no thanks, I don't want that.
this is actually a very likely situation, right?
Yeah,
You know what? Because, right?
our cyberpunk dystopia does not disappoint.
Oh, Vasili, you just opened a box because this
The
is
guy
actually
wrote it like 10 years ago, if I remember correctly,
right now.
way before.
I have a theory. I
Yeah.
cannot prove it. It's a theory. These days, I don't know if you use Uber.
Mm,
Um, there is a. What do you know? Tell me, what do you
not
know?
no. The only time I use Uber if I need to go to the airport
Okay,
and I don't
okay,
want to
okay,
drive
okay.
there. So
Okay, so in Uber now, they have like Uber share. And what you just described, I think it's possible because there's an algorithm to decide like where you're both going to and like to match the location so it's not so different. So, like you're not dropping someone in X and
yeah,
going all
yeah.
the way to the other
It's
side.
kind of like a exhausted variant on a fancy salesman problem.
Like so if
Traveling
we
salesman, yeah.
if we get to a point where like you have enough data to be able to tell behaviors because if the app can actually
Which they
track
can
on.
do now.
Yeah,
Like,
because the app can track other activities on your phone or something like this. So like if they're kind of able to tell like your behavior, so they can probably know all these things you just said. So it's oh, are we putting this out? Are we giving them ideas now? I don't know. This is kind of weird, you know?
yeah.
It's trippy.
There's this guy who's talking about it, about how when you watch stuff like reels or shorts, there's like a certain sequence of events where it shows you something that frightens you, and then it shows you an advertisement, and then it shows you like a picture of cute kittens or something. So there's like a certain sequence
Hmm.
of high low emotional swing before
Oh
it
my
shows you the
God.
advertisement. Because and he says, again, I don't know if it's 100% correct, but he basically says it's not like they come up with it deliberately. It's just like the algorithm converged that if you present it in this sequence, click through goes up.
Hmm.
So it's not like some evil mustache twirling mastermind is going to be doing that. It's just the algorithm is going to converge. It's like, oh, hey, I put this person with this person together. They tip 10% more on average. Easy money.
Oh.
But in the short story, that automated AI-driven taxi cab was basically like a home wrecker for two families. So that was like a really it was not a good situation. It was like two single strangers falling in love with each other. It's like, no, it wrecked two families with them having an affair to collect more tips. Was kind of like the gist of the story.
That's something to really think about.
Yeah.
This is something to really think about. I mean, I'm all for technology and all, but at that point, I mean, there's a lot of things we're no longer in control of. This part is trippy. And I like where we are right now. Like the whole point of making life better and like making work easier for people with AI and stuff. But once we get to this part where we start to do like behavioral um
Modification.
yeah, behavioral
Well, wasn't Facebook
complications.
implicated in it like a couple of years ago?
That's dark.
Aren't they all kind of implicated in it
So
already, one way or the other?
yes, they are, but not as dark as what I just imagined right now. Do you know what I just imagined, Vasily?
Dude, how can you say that? They're like, oh, uh, depressed and suicidal teenagers tend to spend more money on cosmetics, so let's just pump their feed with all this depressing shit so they feel even worse about themselves, so they buy more cosmetics to make them feel prettier, and therefore,
Oh my
like, how fucking dark does it
God.
have to get? It's
That's
like,
dark indeed. Yeah,
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 yeah.
indeed. And you know what? Nah, it's good. I don't want to feel this way. I feel like we had a really good conversation, and I don't want to. I don't want us to end it like that. Like this. This is dark because there's nothing we can do about it, and it's just gonna be there, and we have to find a way to live
Yeah.
the good life. We
It
even with
is
it.
what it is.
It is what it is, huh? It is what it is indeed. But yeah, I hope we don't get to this level, but I don't know if this hope is realistic.
Yeah, yeah. Oh well. I mean, what are you gonna do? Anyway,
Anyway,
kind of probably should wrap this up.
yeah, it's
It's been a good chat.
yeah,
In the
indeed.
next one, we'll talk about data centers in space. Yet
I
another
wanna.
retarded idea.
We should. I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
All
Thank
right,
you,
Mo.
Vasily.
I don't know. Next week. What's next week? Next week's Christmas, right?
Yeah. Listen, it's Christmas. We're gonna be partying somewhere, dancing somewhere,
Yeah. Well,
somewhere.
the
Let's not.
Friday's 26. So if you don't have a hangover,
That's the day where I should be planning the hangover, even. But
yeah,
anyway, we'll
exactly.
see.
You should be.
Let's
So
let's keep
if
it
I
on.
was annoyed, I'd probably be even more annoyed. Well, that's not true. I'm not gonna be drinking on Christmas. But
I mean, if you
if you
do,
choose
nobody's
to,
gonna
I'm
join
not
you.
stopping you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if not next week, I guess we'll see you in a month because we're gonna be on vacation.
Okay.
So anyway,
Yeah.
it'll happen.
We'll,
What'll happen?
yeah, we'll
It's
be back
like
soon.
the path to 100 episodes is just like, whoa.
It will happen. It will happen
I
at some
thought we'd
point.
be done. We'd be done with it by now, but it's all good. All right,
Yeah.
everyone. Let us know what you think about our sad state of affairs in the comments if you choose so. And we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye.